Welcome to Turning the Page. I'm host Donnie Morse of Confetti Antiques and Books, and today we have Bill Betenson with us, who's written a new book on a Utah classic, a Utah outlaw, Butch Cassidy. Bill, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Bill, tell us a little bit about why you needed to write this book when so many books, so many movies, so many documentaries have been done about Butch Cassidy.
Well, it kind of evolved over time. I started researching seriously with Butch Cassidy probably 20 plus years ago. I mean, I grew up hearing stories about him, and as I read more, I wanted, there's so many conflicting stories and myths that I wanted to try and, nail down real facts, and then the book kind of evolved from that. And I just the goal was to come up with a definitive history that really ties down the truth of Butch Cassidy as much as possible.
Now, your grandmother, Lulu Parker, she wrote...
Right, yeah, it's actually my great-grandmother.
Oh, great-grandma.
Lulu Parker Betenson. She was Butch's younger sister, and she wrote a book that BYU published in 1975 called Butch Cassidy, My Brother. That's long out of print, but I'm sure you have copies.
We've had it here in the store. It's a good selling book. But so why did the family need to write another book?
Well, it's been a lot of years since Lulu's around, and she was very close to the embarrassment of having an outlaw in the family, and there's certain things she didn't talk about. And enough times passed, the generations with me, that it's okay to talk about it. You don't have that embarrassment, and now it's more of a fun family history, so we can reveal some of those things that were too painful for her. So
and again, I've read the book, and there are a lot of those reveals, little tidbits from the family that weren't there in Lulu's book. Now, you had a good connection with your great-grandmother.
Right, yeah, she lived a long life. She was 96 when she passed away, I believe, 1980. And so I was 15 when she passed away. So I grew up, my parents were from southern Utah, so we stopped in Circleville at her house a lot of times on trips. And she was somebody really special. The name for her was Nana, as everybody called her. And she was a special grandma that we all loved, and she, treated us all real like we were the favorite grandchild and whatnot. So, yeah, I was thought a lot of her growing up. So,
in fact, she's the one that kind of helped blossom this love for Butch Cassidy that you have.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I've always been interested in the West and cowboys and that. I had a grandfather that had a cattle ranch, was a cowboy, so I had that interest. But she certainly sparked it, and back in 1969 when the movie came out, I had the opportunity to go to the premiere with the family. My parents couldn't get a babysitter, so I got to go.
Oh, too bad, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So I remember sitting there watching that movie just thinking, this is the coolest thing in the world, and that's my relative up on the screen. So, as long as I can remember, I've had a real interest in Butch Cassidy.
I actually had a customer here in the store just yesterday who was actually looking at the cover of the book. It's a very famous photograph here on the cover of Butch Cassidy. And he's like, Paul Newman actually kind of looks like him, all of us kind of grew up on that, Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid,
Right.
The movie, Paul Newman, Robert Redford. And, Lulu's book was a major part of that movie, was it not?
Well, the book actually came out after the movie. She started working on it before, but when I guess it was 20th Century Fox, when they figured out that there was still a living relative or a sister to Butch Cassidy, they invited her to the set. And there was a fun story where Paul Newman went up to her and said, "Hi, I'm Butch," and she said, "Well, hi, I'm your sister." And she was good friends with both Newman and Redford, and in fact, Redford would stop in Circleville on his travels in southern Utah, and they exchanged gifts over the years, and they were pretty good friends. So.
Huh. So tell us a little bit about Butch's early life. One of the stories that Utahns or Mormons are familiar with is the often heard story of the little boy and the red scarf crossing the plains. And tell us a little bit about that story.
Okay, well, you've heard that probably in general conference. They've talked about it. It's a great story of faith and prayer, where the little boy's lost on the plains as they're coming through with the handcart company. And the tie there is he was a relative to Butch Cassidy.
The little boy?
The little boy.
Oh, well, that's exciting. And you talk about that in the book?
I talk about that in the book. In fact, the book has a photograph of the little boy that's never been published before. So, in fact, there's a lot of great photographs that have never been published.
There really are. I mean, there's some great pictures of Butch and the other boys or other men that he was involved with from the gang, and marshals and just family members and people that he associated with.
Right. Yeah. It's got 22 years of my life in that book. So
in fact, some of the pictures actually say from personal collection.
Right.
So
yeah, I've collected a lot of things, and a lot of things I inherited through family and that. So yeah, it's a great collection.
Now, speaking of family collection, in southern Utah there was the cabin there. The cabin that Butch was raised in, this part of his life, and the family had set it up kind of as a museum, or as I guess museum would be the right word.
Right.
Tell us what happened to that stuff.
Well, yeah, that was in the early 70s, and unfortunately somebody felt like they needed that more than the family or the public to enjoy, and the cabin was broken into, and they stole most everything in there. There was pictures, there was an old brass bed, and there was I believe a cane and a watch of Grandfather Parker. There was a post that Butch had carved his initials out in from the attic where he slept, and
they took that.
They took it all, yeah. So
wow, and that stuff has never turned up.
Not that I'm aware of, yeah. So.
Wow. Well, hopefully someday somebody out there, maybe somebody knows something about it, and maybe they can help us.
It'd be nice to be able to have that for the public to enjoy. And
so, being raised here in Utah for most of his childhood, was Butch of the predominant faith here in Utah?
Yes, in fact, both of his parents were Mormon pioneer children that came across the plains with their families. They were actually married in the Salt Lake Endowment House, and so yeah, he was raised as a Mormon. His mother was much more active than his father, but
like most of our families.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that played a part in his growing up. Coming from a loving family, didn't come from a broken home. I think that played a part in who Butch became, because he definitely stood out as a bandit. He wasn't like
now. Butch wasn't the only outlaw in his family.
No.
There were others, or at least a brother. Let's go to a commercial break, and we'll be right back. This is Turning the Page, and we'll see you in a minute.